To hang out with me today. I have a deck. I can go through and I can do my presentation, and we can do that. But first, I want to sort of understand where you guys are at, because I'll try to tailor it more to the room based on where you guys are at, and try and So first, I want to understand who here has a mailing list. Okay, almost everyone. Okay, who here has a welcome sequence? Okay, a little bit less. Okay. Who here has built a review team? Okay, so just a couple people. Who here has you're just specifically on the welcome sequence part? Who here has a welcome sequence that is more than just one email? Okay, so just a couple of people. Okay. Awesome. That's actually perfect presentation I've got. It should be helpful for most people here. And I'll dive into some of the other stuff. Just so quick background on me, I'm Evan Gao. I'm the founder, developer of StoryOrigin. Everything that you love or hate about StoryOrigin comes back to me. I am the engineering department, the customer service department, the marketing department. Mostly I leave up the marketing department to you guys because I just try to build the best product so that everyone will be like, you just got to get on StoryOrigin because it's so helpful. I started building StoryOrigin about 5 years ago now. And the way that I got started, so I used to write short stories back in high school. And then I wanted to get back into writing and start building tools for writers at the same time. And then I went and I talked to some authors and I learned, what are you guys doing? And I heard, okay, so I used, this service for building my mailing list, this service for finding reviewers, this service for creating universal book links, some combo of Facebook groups and Google Forms to arrange newsletter swaps, and then I've got, so I was like, stop. So you've got 5 different services, 8 different spreadsheets. You're doing all this context switching between all these different tools and places you're going. I want to build one thing that does it all in one place for you. So I started working on StoryOrigin. I first built out the helping you build your mailing list, setting up a reader magnet and joining group promos. And that's where StoryOrigin got started. And now StoryOrigin sort of does the full life cycle of, you can use it sort of throughout your entire book production and marketing process. So you can first go set up goal trackers so that you can track your daily word count, and StoryOrigin will tell you how many words you need to hit every day in order to hit that word count by the deadline that you've set for yourself.
Do your fans see that if they're on there?
No, your fans don't see that. That's on the to-do list of, you'll probably hear me say, that's on the to-do list a lot because it's about 2 years long is my to-do list. My to-do list was about 2 years long 2 years ago. So I think it'll always be about 2 years long. So the goal trackers are more just for you, but they're, it's on my to-do list to make it so you can have it public facing too. If you want to share that with other authors for accountability process, or just share that with your readers. So you can set that up, and then once you're done with that manuscript, you can put it up as a beta copy. So this is a relatively newer feature to StoryOrigin, where you can put it up as a beta copy and collect interest in that beta copy from your readers. They would request access, and you can approve or decline people based on just who you want to read, and you can set custom expiration dates. So you can say, oh, I only want them to have access for 3 weeks, and then they can leave inline comments on your manuscript. And one thing that's different about StoryOrigin beta copy, I talk to a lot of authors because this is how I build features. I go, what are authors struggling with? I want to make that easier. So, I heard from authors, I send out a Word doc to 5 different people, and then, some people are just like, it was great, and, just kind of okay, what do I do with that though? I need more. Or talking to authors that are I put it up on Google Docs, and then I've got 5 beta readers, and then my beta readers are arguing with each other in the comments on my manuscript, and I'm I'm trying to be productive, and you guys are messing in my manuscript here. So StoryOrigin, the way the beta copies feature works is you put it up, and readers only see their own feedback, and they have to leave feedback on each chapter to read the next chapter. So they have to leave feedback in order to get access to the next part. And then StoryOrigin allows you to slice and dice all that feedback in a lot of different ways. So you can look at all the feedback from all the readers on just one chapter, or you can look at all the feedback from just a single reader across all of the chapters. So it really just allows you to work with your beta copies, and it helps you collate that data in whatever way works best for your process.
Can I ask you questions, or
Yeah.
am I driving nuts?
No, you
Okay.
can ask questions. Sure.
So can you guide their feedback to some degree? Can you give them like, here are
Yes.
things I really need you to talk to me about?
Yep, so there's
Okay.
basically 3 different ways that you can set critique guidance for
Okay.
readers on your beta copies. So you can set critique guidance at the entire book level, and so those questions will show up on every single chapter of your book. So you might have a very generic question like, were there any boring scenes in this chapter? And you want them to answer that question on every single chapter. Then you might have more chapter-specific critique guidance, like, what did you think about the interaction between these 2 characters in this scene? Was it believable? And you can set a question on just that chapter.
Okay.
And then you can insert questionnaires between chapters. So let's say you want feedback on chapters like 1 through 5 as a whole. What did you think about the build-up of this arc? You can set a questionnaire between those chapters, and they have to answer that questionnaire before they go on to chapter 6.
Okay. So
So-
you can set it up to be really super useful.
Yeah, you can sort of, you get the feedback however you want.
Okay.
And then, so that's the beta copies feature. So again, starting from like the very beginning of the book production process, word count trackers, then beta copies. Then once you're done with that beta copy and you've got your final draft there, put it up as a review copy on StoryOrigin. And that, it's similar to the beta copies feature in that you put the link up and then you can have people request access to that review copy from you. And the thing that's unique about StoryOrigin's review copies feature, which is kind of unique to StoryOrigin versus any other platform, is when people request access, you are put in the driver's seat about whether or not you approve or decline that person to download the book. And you can see their reviewer stats. So they've been approved for 10 review copies on StoryOrigin before. They've completed the process for 9 of them. Okay, I can be relatively confident that they're going to actually leave a review. You can also, if they say they're going to leave a review on Amazon or Goodreads or BookBub, etc., you'll get the links to their reviewer profiles from those platforms, so you can actually go, did they actually leave those reviews on Amazon? Are they leaving reviews for books in my genre? Let's say I'm a steamy author and I see this person has only ever left reviews for clean romance. I might say, even though you leave reviews and you have really high stats, like, I'm going to decline you because I just don't, you can just, not accept the application basically, because you don't want them to be reading your steamy romance novel and leaving, feeling like they should leave a review for something that's not going to be to their taste, right? And then the other thing that's also pretty unique to StoryOrigin is you can choose whether or not you distribute those review copies. One of the common things for authors in KDP Select, right? You have an Amazon exclusivity agreement, so you can't distribute that download through any other platform. So with review copies on StoryOrigin, you can distribute them as a download through StoryOrigin, or you can distribute Amazon prepaid book links. So that the download is actually coming from Amazon, but you still, as the author, what the benefit of distributing Amazon prepaid book links through the review copies feature on StoryOrigin is that you still get access to that community knowledge of how many review copies have they done before, how many have they actually completed, what are the links to their reviewer profiles. And then StoryOrigin also does tracking and follow-up with your reviewers automatically for you. So if you feel awkward about being like, hey, you never left a review, can you go do that? StoryOrigin does that for you automatically, so it takes a lot of that awkwardness out. So if they don't leave a review in 2 weeks, that's when StoryOrigin would send them an email saying, hey, go do this. And the review copies feature is called review copies, not ARCs, because it can be used for both pre-publication or post-publication books. So if you've had a book out for several months and you're still like struggling to get reviews on it, you can use the review copies feature for that one as well. So you set up your goal trackers, writing, put it up as a beta copy, get that feedback, set up as a pre-publication review copy. Now it's published. You hit the mark as published button on StoryOrigin. Everyone gets an email saying, hey, you've written your review on StoryOrigin already, now just go copy paste the text over to whatever platforms you said you were going to leave reviews on elsewhere. So Amazon, Goodreads, BookBub, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, whatever. And then now you've got the retailer links, right? So you can set up a universal book link for that story. And so that's a place where readers can come to see what retailers your book is listed at. and I don't know if you guys know this, Amazon has like 13 different storefronts. So there's Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk, Amazon.com.au, etc. A lot of them. And if you send someone to the Amazon.com domain and they live in the UK, they're going to be in the wrong storefront. You don't want that to happen. So, so if you set up a universal book link for them, when they click on the Amazon button on StoryOrigin, it'll automatically take them to the correct storefront for you. And the nice thing about StoryOrigin is readers can set up a preferred store. So if they click on a universal book link from StoryOrigin after they've set up their preferred store, it just takes them straight to Amazon. They never even really see StoryOrigin. It just redirects them there. You had a question?
Yeah. For the review copies, is there like a reader pool, like they can search by genre, or is it just the readers you send to your copy?
Yeah. So I'm gonna. Good question.
Did I get ahead of you?
No,
Sorry.
great. No, you did not. No, I will. I'm gonna cover that too. So right after. So that's the benefit of universal book links. Now, we've got all of these things, right? And reader magnets. So the other sort of asset that you can build on StoryOrigin is a reader magnet, which is a short story that usually a short story prequel that you would use to attract people to your mailing list, and then you give them that free story and they sign up to your mailing list. So you can build a landing page for that on StoryOrigin as well. So these different assets, and you can set up if you have audiobook codes because you've produced through ACX or Findaway or a different producer, and they might give you audiobooks.com codes or they might give you Kobo codes. You can distribute those codes through StoryOrigin. The way that I built that feature was an author was like, I've got a spreadsheet of codes and I like email all these people and then I have to like follow up with each of them. Hey, did you download the code? Hey, are you gonna go leave a review on it? Right? You only get a limited number of these codes, so you want to make sure that they're actually being used by reviewers, right? So the audiobook promo code distribution feature works the same as that review copies feature, where people request a code from you, you can see their reviewer profiles, you see their stats, etc., and then you make that call on whether or not you want to give them a code. So each of these, the review copies, reader magnets, universal book links, audiobook promo code, audiobook review codes, how do you drive traffic to those assets now that you've got them set up on StoryOrigin? So you can set up cross promotions with other authors through StoryOrigin. You can set up newsletter swaps, which are direct one-to-one cross promotions with other authors. So that's like I'll promote your book in one of my newsletters if you promote my book in one of your newsletters. And then a group promo is, let's say you, me, and 20 other authors in the same genre will all put our books on a single landing page, and then we're all going to drive our traffic to it either through the newsletters that we have or through social media, etc. And a common question that I get with a lot of authors is, can I start from zero? I have 0 people on my mailing list. I don't have an audience. Like, I can't participate in newsletter swaps. And I will tell you, yes, you absolutely can. The StoryOrigin community is incredibly nice, and it's very cool to me to be able to work on a part of the internet which is like people helping people, which is very rare on the internet. Like most of the internet is just people hating on each other. But yeah, no, I mean, the StoryOrigin community is super helpful, especially to authors that are just starting out, because StoryOrigin, it started as a free service. So going back to me starting StoryOrigin 5 years ago, and what I wanted, the unique value of StoryOrigin is that it's this one-stop shop for everything that you need as an author. And I call it a one-stop shop, but there's still lots of sort of major stuff that I really want to build out and truly, make it, there's so many ways to simplify authors' lives still, and it's like 2022, and I'm like, how is this still difficult? I released StoryOrigin in April 2018, and it was free for all the features until April 2021. So it was, and I was always very transparent with everyone. Hey, this is all free. At some point, I'm gonna ask you to pay for it. I was always super transparent about that, and the response that I got when I said, hey, now's the time, now I actually feel like I fulfilled that unique value proposition of it truly is sort of a one-stop shop for doing so many things that you need as an author and simplifying your life substantially. And so that's when I decided to make that switch. And for the most part, I don't think I ever got like a single negative person responding to me. Most of it was like, thank you, Evan. I've just been feeling bad about using StoryOrigin for free for 3 years, so I'm glad to finally like give you some money. And I was super anxious about that process. I mean, imagine building something for 3 years and then being like, can you pay for this now? And then everyone being like, no. So that was a super awesome process. And I super appreciate all of just the love that I've gotten from the author community, and continuing, I just enjoy continuing to build it in adding new features and solving problems. So another part of that too is that I try to also, in that vein, I also try to follow a lot of the advice that I give to authors, which is, you want to build a relationship with your audience through your newsletter, because that's sort of the first step with StoryOrigin. Is if you don't have an audience, here's the first thing you want to do: go to your dashboard, go to the Reader Magnets tab, upload a reader magnet, right? So that can be a short story prequel to your book or your series. It might be a sample version of book 1 that you've already written, or it might be, some other kind of whatever you think you can put together that would entice readers to sign up to your mailing list in order to get that thing, right? For fiction authors, I highly recommend like a 10 to 20,000 word short story prequel. And the reason that I recommend that is it's a very compact sentence, so I would just want to unpack that a little bit. Why 10 to 20,000 words? Well, if it's too short, the reader might feel like they're getting shortchanged, right? So I've heard from authors that had, like a 2,000 word short story or whatever, and some of the feedback they got from people that subscribed to their newsletter was like, where's the rest of the story, right? So you want to make sure that it's got enough sort of meat on the bones that readers feel like they're really getting a story. But you're also giving it away for free. So you don't want to spend a ton of time and money on it, because even though it is something you're giving away for free, you want to make sure it's super well polished, because this is going to be the first thing that a lot of your readers are going to try out from you. So you still got to take the time to make sure you've got a nice cover for it, you've got it well edited, because if they see a bunch of grammatical issues, typos, etc. in your reader magnet, they're going to expect the same stuff from your paid books. Even though you might be like, oh, but it's a free thing, they should not expect as high quality. You always have to start off with high quality at first, right? So that's sort of why I recommend like that 10 to 20,000 word range. Now, why a prequel? So I recommend a prequel because prequels just lend themselves to hooking people into reading that book 1, right? You can leave them with that cliffhanger, so they're more likely to go into buying the series. Regardless of whether or not you use a prequel, though, you might use a side story, or you might use just a story totally unrelated to your worlds in any way, just different characters or whatever. Regardless of what you do there, take the first 3 chapters of your paid book, of your book 1 of your series or whatever, tack that on to the end of that reader magnet story that you're giving away. That way when someone finishes reading that short story, they'll go into chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3 of that paid book, and then they'll be like, oh, I want to finish this. And then that's a much higher driver for getting people into that paid series. And it's weird that I kind of give that advice to people, and I hear from authors so often like, oh, I do that with all of my paid books. Why did I not do that with my reader magnet? So yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like you're just not applying it. Yeah.
Do you find most StoryOrigin users put their reader magnet up for sale anywhere, or just as a promo on StoryOrigin?
I don't have specific data on that because I've never like taken the time to really dig into whether or not people are. I've heard from authors, of course, that do both sides of it, and I wouldn't say that I've heard one more than the other. So the question is, like, do you want to keep that a newsletter exclusive so it really provides a really strong incentive for people, like, hey, you're not going to get this book anywhere else, right? This is the only place you can get that. And then the other side of it is, well, oh, I'm going to throw it up on Amazon. If someone wants to pay me a buck or $2 or $3 for it, like, great. So it kind of depends on how you are positioning that reader magnet. And I would say it kind of depends on where you have that reader magnet too, because are you even going to be able to position it that way that it's like a newsletter exclusive thing? So I would say I don't think that you can go wrong. I don't think that you can go wrong there. But there's, you know, let's just talk about, you know, positioning that reader magnet. A large part of that comes from how are you going to drive traffic to that landing page, right? So on StoryOrigin, like with the, you know, review copies or universal book links or audiobook promo codes, you can cross-promote those review copies doing newsletter swaps or group promos to drive traffic to that landing page for your reader magnet. So people there aren't necessarily going to know that it's for sale on Amazon or not for sale on Amazon because they're just coming directly to that book through StoryOrigin. Now, if you're promoting that reader magnet through your own website, or one of the main ways that you're driving traffic to it is through like the back matter or front matter in your book, then that's where you have more space to say, hey, you're not going to get this book anywhere else, or you might have an epilogue as a reader magnet, like an extra, you know, extra ending to the book. Or like an alternative ending to the book as a reader magnet. And so, yeah, then you probably are promoting that one as like back matter for book one or whatever. And those subscribers that you get that are coming through the back matter of your book are going to be your best subscribers, because they're not just trying you out as an author and taking like your reader magnet as like a sample test of whether or not they want to follow you as an author. They're already people who have read your book one, and now they're like, oh, like I love this universe. I want to dive into these characters more deeply, etc. So doing something like an epilogue reader magnet, just that you put at the back of your at the end of book one in your back matter is a great thing to do. Yeah.
So I'm familiar with, as a reader, with what the delivery experience is like for book funnel. What is the sort of delivery experience like for a reader with StoryOrigin? I
mean, it's nearly the same. StoryOrigin takes a few or less clicks if the reader already knows what they're doing. So they would just, you know, they'd sign up for your mailing list, sign up for your reader magnet, and it'd take them straight to the page that says, you know, do they want an EPUB or PDF or Mobi? I know people are like, Mobi's dead. Me and Damon were commiserating about this because no, actually your Kindle device can still only read Mobi files. When you can now email an EPUB to your Kindle device, but what happens on the back end is Amazon just converts that EPUB to a Mobi file.
Oh, wow.
So the Mobi is not actually dead. It's still the only thing that your Kindle device can read. It's just, I have many complaints about that.
For editing, I send a Mobi file to my older Kindle, and I get an error message email from Amazon every single time, and then it's just right there on my Kindle. So
it's funny. You can't send Mobi files to your Kindle anymore past, you know, October, and we're in November. It's funny. Not funny to me. I have to deal with customer support emails. That's the other thing that StoryOrigin does for you as an author is when you send someone a book file, you don't have to deal with the customer support, right? So StoryOrigin handles that for you. So if a reader ever runs into trouble with, hey, I can't get this on my Kindle, or, you know, my Kindle Fire, Kindle Paperwhite, or my Kindle app, or, you know, I'm trying to get an Apple Books, or I'm trying to get it on my computer, or whatever, StoryOrigin handles the customer support for you. So it saves you time and energy from like figuring out, oh, I don't know how to do that, and let me go find some instructions for you. We already know how to do that for you. So that's the other nice thing. And another feature that we didn't really cover is direct download. So a direct download is a way to distribute a file to a reader without having them sign up to your mailing list first. So you might have like a newsletter exclusive that you just want to give out to your existing subscribers. Use a direct download for that on StoryOrigin, so that you don't have to send them through the like sign up process again, right? And that direct downloads feature is actually on the free tier, and we still handle the customer support for it, so you don't have to worry about that either. And you can also, integrations with email service providers is also on the free tier. So you can integrate that direct download with your email service provider, and when someone goes to request that download, they'll put in their email address, and StoryOrigin will verify that email address is actually on your mailing list before they can download the book. So that's just another nice thing, and all that's on the free tier. The universal book links is also on the free tier. The goal tracker is on the free tier as well. StoryOrigin, if you want to bump up to the standard plan, is $10 a month or $100 per year. And so yeah, super affordable for the amount of stuff that it does. Many authors tell me that it's underpriced, but I want StoryOrigin to be affordable for those authors that are like just starting out, don't have any audience, and they're just looking for how do I get started. I want it to be attainable for every author. I don't care whether you're 6 figures or 7 figures, or you make nothing and you're currently paying $500 for a book cover or whatever, right? I still want you to be able to afford being able to build your audience, because that's what it's all about. Going back to just like having a reader magnet and using that as a way to get people to sign up to your you asked a question about review copies, and I'm gonna come back to it right now, actually. So you can promote those review copies through cross promos, so through newsletter swaps, through group promos. And then StoryOrigin also you can optionally list it publicly on StoryOrigin. So there's a directory of review copies that readers can come to StoryOrigin and browse. And so even if you publicly list it, you still personally control who gets to download it. So they still would send a request, and then you get to approve or decline each one of those requests, whether or not they came directly through that link that you sent it in your newsletter, or through cross promo, or through that public directory, right? And you don't have to do that. So if you like to keep your review team private, you can just choose to not list it publicly too. The cool thing that this is like underutilized, or maybe people don't know about, so it's a good thing to do, is when you do choose to optionally publicly list that review copy, if you're focused on building your mailing list and building up using that reader magnet and cross promos and group promos and things, if you have a review copy publicly listed, after someone goes and they downloads your review copy, after they download it, so they've already got it on their device now, StoryOrigin will pop up a little modal that also says, hey, you want to check out other books by this author, and we'll take them to that list of publicly available review copies that you have, so they can go ahead and also request a review copy of book 1 or whatever you have up. And that way, you are both building your mailing list and building your review team at the same time without doing any extra legwork, right? And if you don't want that to happen, then you can just choose to not list any review copies publicly. That's fine too, right? But yeah, just like, it's all about sort of automating that, building your mailing list and building your review team simultaneously, because if you're setting up a bunch of cross promos and stuff for review copies, then that means you're taking some time away from building your mailing list. And so if you can do those in tandem, then you're just getting more. The other thing along with that, let's talk about welcome sequences for a little bit. So you've got your reader magnet up. You've joined some newsletter swaps. You've joined some group promos. Maybe you're putting the link at the back of your book or on your website or social media. Now you've got people joining your mailing list. So the question is, okay, what do I do? You want to send them a welcome email. And the way that I do that is, oh my gosh, it's 12:42. We have 3 minutes.
No, you have 15 minutes.
Oh, 15 minutes. Okay, fantastic. Oh, 15 minutes.
We're good.
I was like,
I got your clock. We're fine.
I was like, I'm gonna have to speed run this. Okay, great. So the way that I recommend what you want to do is you want to welcome someone to your email. And I so yeah, you can always email me. You can reply to any of those emails directly, or you can always just shoot me an email. And my inbox is always open. I'm sure there are probably several people in this room who have shot me emails, and I reply fairly quickly. Yeah, you want to set up a welcome sequence. The way that I frame it is you want to think about it like you're bringing a friend to a party. You don't want to bring a friend to a party and then like walk in the door and like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to my other friends now. See ya, bye. Like, and then you're like kind of left there like, okay, like I guess I'm gonna just go talk to some new people that I don't know, doing kind of what we're doing here. I know, like breaking into those groups of people. Breaking into those groups of people, like having conversation, and all I'm doing this week is like standing around in the lobby, just like loitering, seeing if anyone wants to talk to me. So like, feel free to come bother me. Please come bother me. So after this session, if you just see me like standing around or talking to anyone, feel free to break into the conversation. I would love to talk to you guys. That's seriously all I'm here to do. You don't want to just like leave that person hanging. So what do you do when you take a friend to a party? At least what I do is I tend to, bring them along, have them meet my other friends and say, here's, Alice and Bob and whoever, right? And then I ask that person questions to engage them in the conversation so that that person feels like they're being invited to be a part of the group, to be a part of your tribe. And then, so it's asking them questions, and then it's also telling them, oh, here's how I know here's how I know Alice, here's how I know Bob, or here's how I, here's like stories along from my sort of tribe. And that gets them introduced to like kind of understanding who you are, who your group is, and makes them feel like you are approachable, right? So I do this, and this is why I try to be so approachable as well over email, saying like my inbox is always open. You want to have that sort of open approach to your own audience. At least I found it works really, really well for me. I think if I was like sort of just a man behind the curtain and then I asked people, hey, you've been getting this thing for free, now it's paid, and you didn't know who I was, I think that would have gone very differently. Yeah, it's about being open with your audience. And so in that welcome sequence, making that actionable to your welcome sequence, how do you do that? So here's what I recommend. So email 1, that's the introducing them to yourself email. Where you say, hey, just wanted to make sure you got the download of XYZ Reader Magnet. Also throw in the link to the direct download into that email sequence, into your first email in your welcome sequence. Theoretically, that person already has the book on their device because they went through the Reader Magnet process on StoryOrigin and they were taken to the download page already. But you send them that direct download link, they've probably got it on their device already. Sending them that download link is a reminder, like a nudge to say, hey, get started reading this, because you don't want to be, 12 books down on their to be read list. If you can sort of remind them, hey, this is like a book that you've got, make sure to check it out. And I do case studies with lots of authors as well. So if you go on StoryOrigin, you go on that tutorials tab, or you go to the blog link in the footer on StoryOrigin, you'll find I've done a lot of case studies with authors about, how did you build your mailing list? How do you run your newsletter swaps? How do you do your welcome sequences? So some authors will have one of their email welcome sequences, one of the emails in their welcome sequence will be just like selling them on reading the Reader Magnet, even though they've already got downloaded, just to help them get it bumped up onto that to be read list. Because you can have a great hook in that Reader Magnet to buy book 1, but if they never get started, then it doesn't matter, right? So you even in that welcome sequence, it's good to sell them on starting to read that book they've already downloaded. So that first email I recommend is, write, tell them a little bit about yourself, give them that direct download link, and then lastly, ask them a question related to what you told them about yourself, right? So you might say, you might say like, oh, I love to go camping or whatever, right? And so at the end of your email sequence, you might say, hey, do you like to go camping or do you like to stay in a hotel, right? Something very simple, right? They can just say, oh, I always said I don't do camping, right? Something that people might have an opinion about. One of my, one thing I did on one of my newsletters was like, my wife grilled some vegetables, and I was like, wow, these vegetables taste substantially better than just throwing them in the microwave or steaming them or whatever, or boiling them or whatever way you want to do it. I'm like, should I buy a grill? and then I got emails back like very opinionated. Yes, and it needs to be this one. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing you could buy and it worked like that or whatever, right? Like I'm used to this kind of grill. And it's like, so you learn interesting things, and then you're building relationships with people too. And you never know what people are going to engage on because you don't necessarily know what their interests are, but you're trying to always sort of find what that is. So having those really simple questions in your newsletter, and even if they don't respond, it's still a signal to them that you are open, right? Because if you just sort of take that corporate, like, here's what I do, here's who I am, you're welcome for your book. You're not gonna feel approachable, and so part of that welcome sequence, it's sort of about three things. It's finding out who is actually going to stay on your list. So if they unsubscribe right after that welcome email, like that they're just a freebie seeker, and so you don't need to worry about paying for them to be on your list. Granted, it's like fractions of a penny for them to be on your mailing list, right? But you're still not having to worry about like maybe running into the free you run out of the free tier on MailRite or MailChimp or whatever, right? So it's about finding out who those freebie seekers are, and then the other part is finding out who your champions are. And so when you ask people to engage them in questions and stuff, and you start to build that relationship with them, that's how you can find out who your champions are going to be. Those people that are going to join your review team or become beta readers for you, etc. When you're sending out audiobook promo codes, whatever, you're sending those links out to your mailing list. You can find out who your champions are. And then, so for email number 2, let's see. I did say there were 3 things about your welcome email sequence, and now I'm forgetting what my third one is. Oh yeah, and you just want to ensure that they got the download, so sending out that direct download link.
I also include a link to my most recent book.
Oh yeah. So
Message.
Yeah. So in that second email, in the second email on your welcome sequence, what I typically do is you try and introduce them to like your community, right? So here's a little bit about me, like I'm trying to learn a little bit about you. Next is like you try and sort of welcome them to your tribe, right? So you might have a forum or a Facebook group that you set up as well where your readers can interact, and then you can say, hey, like come join my community, and then you might have like some screenshots from your forum or your Facebook group where people like are interacting and having fun or whatever, or discussing things that are relevant to your genre. But if you don't want to do that, the other thing I'd recommend is sort of explaining your relationship to your genre, right? Say this is my favorite genre and here's why I write in it. And then at the end of that email could be, hey, like, what's your relationship? How did you get into, like, for me, I love lit RPG. Like, how did you get into lit RPG? And then you can sort of share because that's one thing that that your audience is interested in, that you are also interested in. That you'll share that interest. So that's a great way to connect with people as well. And then I would recommend putting like the link to that direct download in that email as well, just as another nudge, like, hey, get started. or you could sort of, again, sell them on getting started with that reader magnet in that email as well. And then for that third email in your welcome sequence, this one I would say is about finding your champions, the people who are going to be on your review team or going to be beta readers for you. The call to action there is, hey, do you want to get all of my books free forever? And like, that's a very enticing offer, right? And the way you do it is just like, sign up to this mailing list that's for my review team, or you can link them directly to your review copy on StoryOrigin, and then they can just request it from you on StoryOrigin, and then you can start to build the team automatically through there. And so, again, this is part of that whole build your review team at the same time that you're building your mailing list, right? And so having that automatically integrated with building your review team with your welcome sequence is just an easy way to start that. Because I mean, I've talked to a number of authors who are like, I've got 2,000 people on my mailing list and I have no review team. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, if you had a welcome sequence and you were building that mailing list all along, and people are just being invited automatically to join your review team, like you would maybe have, maybe it's only 20 people out of those 2,000, but that's 20 more than 0, right? And it's and maybe it's just a couple of people a month that shoot you a request for that review copy. So, but over time that adds up. It's like, you've got 2, then 4, then 6, and so at the end of 2 or 3 years that you've been doing this, you've got a really solid team of people that you can rely on, and that will sort of read each book for you and are really your champions. So that's what that third email is all about. And I've already sort of talked about like how you use those review copies to vet your reviewers and stuff like that, so you can know whether or not that person is someone that you can really trust. And then I'll talk a little bit about just sort of regular newsletters. I would recommend, after someone's joined your mailing list and has gone through that welcome sequence, I recommend sending newsletters at a minimum once per month. At a minimum. Just because if you send them any less frequently, if you only send them every 2 months or every 3 months, then you're not going, they're just going to forget who you are, right? It's been 3 months since you've sent them an email and they read that short story, and that was 10 books ago for them, and now they're like, who's this person? And so just staying top of mind is really important. So I would recommend at a minimum of once per month, and even more frequently than that. I've talked to many authors like, okay, you've tried once per month, you've tried twice per week, which one, how does that go? Many authors say that they get higher open rates, higher click rates, more engagement from sending twice per month than sending once per month. So your automatic intuition is usually like, I don't want to bother people, I'm not going to send a newsletter super frequently, like I don't want to be spamming people, but sending more frequently, actually people want to engage more with you that way. So highly recommend it. And so part of that is like, okay, what's my content for that? So usually it's like a story just from something that happened that week. I went to my cousin's wedding last week and my uncle was wearing a kilt, so I sent a newsletter with me and my uncle. He's wearing a kilt yesterday, right? And then staying accountable to that, as well as like joining group promos and newsletter swaps. By doing that, it sort of, you feel that a little bit more accountable to sending out your newsletter regularly, because you're agreeing to promote other authors and to help them out. And that also provides value for your mailing list, for your readers to actually open your emails, because who wants to open an email where you just say every week like, oh, here's what my dog did or whatever, right? So it's about building that personal rapport with your audience by telling them about your week, but then also providing the value of, oh, here's what to check out, here's new stuff, because that's what readers are always looking for, is like, what's the next thing that I'm going to get? And so sharing those other reader magnets from other authors or universal book links or review copies, etc., provides value to your readers. So that's another reason for them to click on your emails. And it also helps you stay more accountable, because you have agreed to something, and so it helps you stay more regular. So that is it. We've got 1 second left. Cool. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me. I'm just, anyone feel free to like tag me anytime and ask me any personal questions that you might have. Any follow-up questions, totally fine.